illustrator of Possessions and a forthcoming book called One Soul. And I've done some work for DC Vertigo and Marvel Comics.
Hi, I'm Darwin Cook, cartoonist. I don't know, work for most of the companies and currently doing a series of crime books for IDW and a bunch of other crap.
Hi, I'm Julie Tanaki. I am an illustrator. I made a poster this year, and I have a book co-work with my cousin, Skim, and a book with Drawing Quarterly, Indoor Voice, and working on DJ and I'm working on me and Rico are working on a new book right now.
My name's Stuart Ibbinen. I've been working in comics for 23 years now, primarily for Marvel and DC. The last 6 or 7 years for Marvel. Although we began by self-publishing, Catherine and I, and we last year published a book with Top Shelf called Moving Pictures. And this year, debuting at the festival, I've got a book of illustrations and comics called Centifolio, Volume 2.
Catherine Ibbinen. Is that on?
Yeah.
Raise it up. It was really quiet the last panel.
Was it really quiet? Maybe it was just a really quiet person, perhaps.
Quiet people get that.
I've been working for Marvel for the past 3 or 4 years. I just finished Wolverine and Jubilee miniseries, and right now I'm cleaning up the next project that Stuart and I are doing together, which should be out by Christmas somehow.
No, it won't be out by Christmas.
No,
it'll be done by Christmas.
It'll be done.
Come on, YouTube.
So the general concept of the panel tossing around was kind of looking at the Canadian identity working within kind of a mainstream scope.
What they really meant was Canadians whoring in the mainstream. I think it's the real title here.
Is this time for more paying for it jokes? So I'm kind of curious, like a big thing for me, I do a radio show called Ink Studs, and a big thing of what I cover is Canadian cartoonists. I had a book, Jillian is in the book, with interviews with, about half of it's with Canadian folks. And it's really important to me to kind of know the legacy we have as Canadian cartooning industry. And kind of, I'm curious, what does this mean? What is being a Canadian cartoonist? Is it a separate entity? Is it a separate experience? Is it the same experience? How do you come to blah, blah, blah? So lots of questions.
The mic turns to me, because I'm well known for my deeply Canadian sympathies. I don't know.
You don't have to answer all those questions either.
Yeah.
Let's just start out with what's simple.
What I am going to say though is I think it's rather difficult to ask any kind of artist what it means to be particularly their nationality of artist, because I think most artists and writers sort of strive for a universality, if that means anything. Like we strive to be translatable and to be relevant to many people, and not that we don't want to be difficult, but it's hard to pin down something and say I do that because I'm Canadian.
That's such a Canadian answer.
I've always said, I've worked extensively down there. I worked in the Warner studio on the Batman and Superman animated shows, and it'd be 3 in the afternoon and you'd be buzzing down the hall and you notice 8 of them standing around the water cooler complaining about the Koreans stealing all their work. And my favorite joke was always, look, there's nothing a Canadian can do that 5 Americans couldn't do better. And I think that's a big difference. We don't have the population base or the resources to, say, adopted the attitude or the mindset of a lot of our contemporaries down there. So I think we come into it with a more can-do philosophy and a more resourceful approach to the work. At least that's something I'd say I noticed.
Yeah, I don't really, I think those are good points. Again, it's not something that I am trying to push a Canadian agenda through my work or anything like that. I just sort of the story, some of the stories that I've had have been Canadian, but it's almost an incidental. It's not really some sort of again, agenda or thing that I'm trying to convey to the world. Is, you know, I think it's always like, do what you know and do what you know that you can convey with some sort of honesty and truth or integrity. And if it happens to be in Toronto, then, you know, whatever. But I do know a lot of illustrators in the States. I live in New York that are Canadian, and it's sort of, it's like we look like everybody else, you know, like there's like a gross surprise that everybody's Canadian, it seems like, and I don't know why that is. Maybe I think there is sort of this attitude where you do have to strive a little higher and work a little harder and come down and make your name. And I know a lot of them come back, but I think that there is, I don't know, something in the air, but you know, it's just, I think that they do have to work a little harder, and that is a huge component to anybody's success.
You illustrated a portrait of President Obama recently, didn't you?
Or, yeah, New York Magazine.
Yeah. So was there like a backlash from American illustrators who thought you were taking work away from them?
They have no clue. I mean, again.
Right. And you didn't. It didn't affect, you know, how you see yourself, or you know, you weren't selling out any more than normal.
I think there is a benefit to being somewhat of an outsider. You know, you don't look so different from an American, and you can pass as an American. But
Just
I
watch
think,
your A's.
Right, but I think that there is something to being an outsider that is very sort of puts you in an interesting position, which is to your benefit, actually.
Sure.
You know?
I think we're better able to see the flaws in America and the strengths in America, just because we're this
Right.
at arm's length. We're able to maybe observe it in a more detached fashion than they are.
Does it maybe make us seem a little more insightful when we're writing about America?
Not to them. Not to them. Not at all. No, if you mention you're from Canada, to the number one response you get to that is, we saved your butts in WW2. Honest to God, this is something that 22.
Well, I've never heard that. Yeah, are you from Toronto?
You hang out with
Oh, I guess it's one. Well, I mean, like everybody else, it seems. I guess I personally don't think about it too much, and I don't think it has any bearing on the work that I produce. I just try and, you know, be the best artist I can be, and don't think about borders or nationality or any of those things too much. I know that when we've traveled around the world, the question that gets asked by comic fans or readers in different countries is, you know, how familiar are we with the creators that are from that country? So, you know, if we're in France, how well do I know the comic scene there? And I always feel really bad because I just don't pay attention, not just with my own work, because it is really transparent. It's not a factor for me at all. But I don't, you know, if I see something that I like or read something that I like, I just like it regardless of the origin. And I don't really, you know, and often we read things in translation, so there's this other layer to the, you know, muddling it up that interferes with, you know, whether I think that, you know, this is a fantastic Japanese book or Italian book, or, you know, these are creators that, you know, have drawn on a tradition that's completely different. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. You know, we love our American overlords, frankly. And you know, part of me was thinking it's really interesting that we're having this conversation, and it's always, you know, it's how are we Canadian contrasted and compared to Americans, right? But the fact is, we're basically all working for American companies and making reasonably good livings doing so. If we could do the same work in Canada, I certainly would. The state of the dollar is killing us.
Oh, yeah.
So it's, I mean, anyone in this room, if someone, you know, walked into your job, if you have a, you know, regular day job, and they said to you, you know, your income is going to drop by 35% over the next 5 years.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
how, what would your reaction?
This is your reward for 20 years of
Yeah.
service with this
I
company.
can't explain this to anybody. They